And we went up and come back with the same blood.
We went to the same place together.
I thought that was only come back and look for your outside. That trip killed me. Which makes
We had to like call countries to like save us because people in Antigua very way and it was tricky with the walking around before.
They didn't give you any Kit Kats? So you go.
But I wanted to know, that's okay.
Oh gosh, there's really interesting.
That's another one. I still want my Kit Kats. It's my favorite subject.
What is this? This? You.
Integration.
Right, is that integration in physics too?
Yeah, what?
Well, it's not the rule.
To make the feedback out, I'm sorry for your school because they have the content, so I collaborate with them.
Nice.
Their interactive, they didn't do anything extra, so I felt sorry for them.
You mean his
Yours.
as well?
Okay.
I don't know why they come or not. Yeah, I thought.
Yep. Where's the Kit Kats? I'm already on time.
I'll tell you all the people, just remind me. There's the other people, the biggest people. Huh?
You trying to
No. Just one.
We didn't know my jokes, but still, it's not the Kit Kats.
Right, so today we start. Today we are. I don't know if Miss Christina the office sent you all the schedule for the vacation classes.
That's why I'm doing.
So happy to come. Yeah. Alright, so I'll send it on the group chat too when I get it. I think it's on the first week of the vacation. Oh, labs, that's chemistry. That is chemistry. I have nothing to do with chemistry. Christmas Eve.
I'm talking about the
Christmas Eve.
Oh,
The Eve. Yeah.
we sent B to these.
Alright, so yeah, today we start in homeostasis. Right. Yeah.
Fine.
You know? No idea, just had a no, just had a look. Let me check first before I tell you that. I'll send it on the group chat. I hate to turn this one. So the dates are right here, but I really don't know.
Don't put this on our odd time, huh? Because that's how physics, I'm gonna say these.
I will, I have a schedule, right? But I don't know why it's not there. I think it was on, but don't hold me to this, right? I think it was on, what I just did lab schedule, that's why. I get a schedule for you and send it tomorrow, but it is within that first week. So I think, I'm not sure, it's from 11 to 1 on the Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I think, of that first week. I'm not sure. Confirm that with you. Right, so I get to homeostasis. Right, so whenever we're thinking of homeostasis, we want to think of balance. Right? There's a way for the body to correct itself. Okay, and the easiest way to remember the mechanisms of homeostasis is just to remember example. Okay, the easiest example, or the most common one that they bring in the exam is the example of glucose. Right, okay. Right, so what do you all think we use to, for homeostasis? So to regulate the body's internal and even sometimes external environments. So the body's internal environment would mean like internal temperature, internal pH, things like that, right? So anytime we talk about internal environment, that's what I'm talking about, the conditions within the body. So those conditions would include temperature, pH, what else? What else is important for life inside the body? So temperature, pH, water, right? So how much water present and how it being used. What else? So nutrients, right? So the concentration of nutrients, which would include glucose, right? And those are the main things. Right? Okay. So these things need to be controlled. You don't want it to get too high, but at the same time, you don't want it to get too. Right? Homeostasis. Okay, and in homeostasis, we're going to be learning about something called hormones and plant growth regulators. Right? So we refer to hormones, these are found in animals, right? Hormones are found in animals, and plant growth regulators are found in plants. It's basically plant hormones, right? You just have a different term. Okay? And these control the internal environment of an organism. Right? Anybody knows this, what we call the system that we find hormones in? The endocrine system, right? So you have an endocrine and exocrine system. We'd have to go through the differences, and then we'd have to go through our hormones. Right? Anybody knows examples of hormones? Start with adrenaline is a hormone, yeah. What else? So one that controls sugar levels. Insulin, right? So that's the example we're going to be focusing on. Glucagon is also a hormone, yeah. Right, so it's like a hormone that's opposite to insulin. So again, you're gonna have some terms that you're not familiar with as yet, but it's just to introduce the topic. So in our body, we have something called a set point. Right? So we're going to use the example of temperature, right? So what is this set point temperature now? What in humans? 37 degrees Celsius, right? So it means at any point in time, our body should be 37 degrees Celsius. In mammals, right? In reptiles are different because they are not warm blooded, they'll be cold blooded. Right? So we need to see what happens. If the temperature goes above that point, meaning the temperature starts to rise. Okay? There are some mechanisms in place to get the body back to the center of 37 degrees Celsius. Right? Let's say we have the temperature increase. Right? Let's just say it's 40 degrees Celsius. Right? Pretty. Right? So the first thing that needs to happen, the body reaches 40 degrees Celsius, this must be received by receptors. Right? Before your body can do anything, you need to know, okay, these readings are normal. So this 40 degrees Celsius need to be interpreted by the receptors, right? Which would sense the change. Okay? The receptors then send that signal to regulate. And what would your regulators do? What are they responsible for? Right, to fix what's wrong, right? To come up with a response. So they would decide what to do, right? So the regulators figure out what to do, and then they don't actually carry out the response. Okay? Effectors, responsible for carrying out the response. Right? So we get the example specifically the temperature adjustment. Right? And after effectors work, they're going to drop it down to 37 degrees Celsius. Right? So they specifically for temperature, what would be the receptors of? What would be the receptors for temperature?
Skin.
So that's correct, but the skin is for external temperatures. Right? Remember, this is an internal mechanism we're trying to control. Right? So the receptors, in this case, will be something called the hypothalamus. I don't think you're all clear about this week. What did it as a topic? We get to it. The hypothalamus is a small part in your brain that acts as like a sensor, not just for temperature, but for all sorts of different things. Right? The hypothalamus is a receptor for temperature, glucose, hormone levels, etc. different things. Right? It's a sensory part of your brain. Right? So the hypothalamus is a receptor in this case. Right? Your regulator. Right? So the hypothalamus would be your regulator. They come up with a response. Right? Hypothalamus. Here. And the hypothalamus would also be right? So this is if the temperature rises internally. If it's externally, it could be skin cells or epidermal cells. Right? Hypothalamus is going to come up with a response, but the hypothalamus itself is not causing the response. The response, so what would be the response to high body temperature? Sweating, right? So in this case, what would be the effectors? So if the response is to sweat, what are going to be the effectors? Right? Sweat glands. Right, so sweat glands are going to secrete sweat, which can evaporate and cause the body temperature to drop back to 87. Right? Yeah. Now do the opposite now.
So which one is it where there are like spaces between your blood vessels and your blood vessels like this?
Dilation and contraction.
Yes, the dilation.
That's another one, right? So if the response we're going at is to dilate the blood vessels to expand, so the blood vessels will be closer to the skin, right? What will be the effectors? Receptors and regulators. What will be the effectors? It will be the sweat glands instead. What will it be? Yeah, right, the blood vessels was the next thing you do when you got to well, here, right? Here could lie
And then flat.
relatively flat, right? If it's flat, he could escape.
That's expensive.
No,
Like when you're cold, you see here, yeah, sure. When you're cold, right? Like when you're freezing, you take it stand up. Yeah.
it's for extra insulation on your
Yeah.
house, not the skin.
So when he hears stand up, and I said he hears stand up, he could be trapped over. When they lie flat, he could just pass through spaces. Right? So effectors would be here, the muscles, which would cause the hairs to lie flat, so he could escape. Right? Okay. Let's say temperature drops down. Let's say about 25 degrees Celsius. Started to get cool. Again, it must be this information must be received by receptors. Same receptors, right? Hypothalamus and skin cells. The change must be caused by regulators. Right? And the regulators must send a signal to effectors. Which will produce the response. Right? So the same thing again. Could be a skin cell hypothalamus. Right, it's the hypothalamus again. Right, and the effector this time will be the same effectors. You're just doing something different this time. Sweat glands will close. When sweat when you poop. Right, your blood vessels instead of dilated, they contract to move further into the skin, so not as much heat escapes. And the hair rectal muscles would cause the hair to stand. And so more heat could be trapped. Right? So this is the basis of homeostasis. It starts with set points. Once you start with, once you have deviation from these set points, right? Then your receptors, regulators, and effectors would have to bring it back to the set point. What would happen if they can't bring it back to the set point? If your body can't bring back temperature to the set point. Right? The organism will die. Right? Specifically the temperature, if your body don't have a certain temperature, enzyme will stop working as well, and it could lead to death. Oh, another effector would be shiver, right? So spasming of the muscles, we call it the shiver, which can produce heat. Right, so you can take down this flow chart. We can go through a few more things. Right, if you open to the head, this would be a feedback loop, right? Weight is International Medicine Audio Association year. So even, all right, I will get you one since you didn't get me one. So we even.
So what happens tomorrow for International Children's?
I did our lessons tomorrow.
Okay.
So I would see a little, was it again or something?
Then I'll be here from.
Huh?
From 3 to 7.
Oh, I will be here from this stuff.
Yes, you will.
The flow chart that one.
Right, is a feedback loop. Right. Now it have two types of feedback, right? It have negative and positive feedback. Which one you all think this would be an example?
What's good?
this one would be a negative feedback loop, right?
And feedback is when it does go back to.
Hmm?
Negative feedback is when it does go.
Yeah, so negative feedback is when it returns to the set point. A positive feedback loop is when, okay, you have a problem and it continues to add on to the problem. Not necessarily a problem, like you have a change and the loop causes a furthering of the change, right? And so this would be a negative feedback. Negative. And again, a negative feedback loop involves returning the value to the set point. So the example we use was temperature. So the temperature it was initially raised, but it was returned back to the set point. A positive feedback loop would reinforce the change. So for example, if this was a positive feedback loop and the set point had increased to 40 degrees Celsius, the positive feedback loop would have continued increasing the temperature. Right? Or if the temperature had dropped, a positive feedback loop would have kept the temperature at 25 degrees Celsius or continue to decrease this. Right? When we do ethylene or plant growth regulators, we'll see an example of positive feedback. Yeah. Right? So when a banana starts to ripen, when one starts to ripen, the others will start to ripen once it's in close proximity. Like you do a lab on that.
Yeah, it's just really.
We finished our lab soon.
Everything shadow one up in, you know,
So this happened, said it would be 18 now.
18.
Yes.
That's great. We just did like 12.
How much y'all doing? Just
14.
okay.
No, that's not. I'm sure it was.
Atelier, how much y'all doing? Too much.
And one.
18 labs, you're saying? Right. Right. So for those online who doing labs here, just know it could be 18 labs instead of over 12.
Yeah, I remember.
And that's with,
Well, yeah, well, that makes sense. 18, I don't understand why they're doing 18 labs.
Especially against you, I got my lashes fitted.
and
Oh, they would have done that in unit 1. No?
yeah, and
Routine. Great, why we use cocktail from some of the creative fruits and making cheesecake, shout and protein, which.
Okay.
just.
So we're just taking a note on it, right? So like we are define what a set point is and what happens when there's deviation on the set point. Okay, but the main thing to remember is any type of feedback mechanism must have a receptor, regulator, and effector. Right? So similar to what you all did in CSEC when you all would have done stimulus on the environment. Yeah. Just a little bit more in depth. So write in the optimum value. The optimum value of a factor. The optimum value of a factor is called a set point. The optimum value of a factor is called a set point. Comma, which must be maintained. Which must be maintained for optimum performance. which must be maintained for optimal performance, full stop. When a value deviates, when the value deviates, when a value deviates from the set point, when a value deviates from the set point, comma, a signal is sent. I didn't have one. A signal is sent to certain receptors. To certain receptors. Which are in charge. Which are in charge. Which are in charge of maintaining. Which are in charge of maintaining that specific factor. Which are in charge of maintaining that specific factor. Full stop. The receptor then sends a signal. The receptor then sends a signal. The receptor then sends a signal to a regulator. The receptor then sends a signal to a regulator which determines the course of action, which determines the course of action to be taken, which determines the course of action to be taken. Full stop. These regulators then send a signal. These regulators then send a signal. These regulators then send a signal to effectors. To effectors. Which bring about the necessary changes. Which bring about the necessary changes. Full stop. This process where information is sent between cells. This process where information is sent between cells is called cell signaling. It's called cell signaling. Full stop. Okay. You all think I can come up with definitions for positive and negative feedbacks? Should give out it. No, but trust solid.
I don't find those to.
Huh?
That's another very negative modification.
No, but like Alright, so just skipping a line, I just define what a positive and negative feedback loop is. What positive and negative feedback. Right, so remember when you have two ways feedback could occur in biology, positively or negatively. Right, we'll start with negative. What does he head in? Okay, we'll start with positive. But look, Emily says she starts with negative. Huh? No, she said it on the chat to me. Oh, they want to see the chat? Huh? Well, yeah, let's have it. Right, and look, just no messaging, she had negative face as well.
Much negativity in space, that's good.
Start positive and negatively, yeah?
Yeah.
As they said,
After Joel, so.
did it, I didn't, and so the same is wrong. I don't need a negative, or, yeah.
They just start with Joel, what do you want to start with?
Okay, everybody really started negative. Okay, sorry, positive. Right, so
Really?
positive feedback.
Really?
They change it. I think they change it. Right, positive feedback. So just put a dash. This is a process. This is a process which reinforces the change. This is a process which reinforces the change. That has happened, reinforces the change that has happened to the set point. Full stop. This process is not only allowed to happen. This process is not only allowed to happen, but it is sometimes amplified. But it is sometimes amplified by positive feedback. It's amplified by positive feedback, yeah. So it's like a cascading effect. It's like, okay.
The loop is amplified by positive.
So that one wouldn't be a loop like this. So you see this one kind of cyclic, that one is cyclic. It's not returning to the set point. I'm going to go through the example so you don't understand. Right. Yeah. So for example, right? Well, and everybody here know what a fruit is. We go with the example of a banana, right? If you leave green bananas, if you leave a bunch of them, yeah. If you leave a bunch of green bananas and you wrap it in a cloth, okay? Nothing would happen. The banana will stay green. What if in that same cloth you put a ripe banana? What would happen? It will ripen faster, right? There's an example of positive feedback. The reasoning is there's a hormone called ethylene, right? Ethylene allows fruits to ripen, right? And what happens is when a little bit of ethylene is present, it causes the production of more ethylene, which causes the production of more ethylene. So the positive feedback causing more positive feedback. So the presence of ethylene causes ripening and the production of more ethylene, right? So instead of decreasing the amount of ethylene present, the plants would produce more ethylene, or the fruits would produce more ethylene. That's positive feedback, right? Another example is during childbirth, right? If you want an example for humans. So during childbirth, right, during contractions especially, the mother will release oxytocin, right? There's a hormone that helps with the pain, right? And it helps to cause contractions. Now, you all know as you get closer to birth, contractions increase. So it goes from once every couple hours to once every couple of minutes. The reason for that is oxytocin undergoes positive feedback. So oxytocin is present in small amounts, then it starts to increase. So as oxytocin increases, contractions increases. More oxytocin present, going to cause more oxytocin to be released. Right? It only stops after the childbirth. Oh no, it just stops completely. No more contractions. Right? So you have two examples there. So the example could be ethylene, spelling for that. Ethylene during fruit ripening and oxytocin oxytocin and oxytocin during contractions and childbirth. Oxy, I think is works right. But I'm sure it have an American and it's just not, that's one of them. But it's oxytocin. Oxytocin. But another correct. Another correct. Let me see.
It's not oxytocin, oxytocin. Not oxytocin.
Oxytocin. Say it.
Oxytocin, not oxytocin.
You know, have an E in this. Oxytocin. It's
Right,
oxy.
oxytocin.
Spelling.
Imagine I know one. I don't know what else you learned about it.
So it does have a
See? To be different, I think.
do one time. Okay, yes, this way is correct, right? But
So just,
Yeah. I was with, I just told him for Sanji to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, so oxytocin and ethylene.
The ethylene is during fruit ripe.
Fruit ripening in childbirth for contractions. Right, so if you just want like a quick summary of what positive feedback is, it's just the amplification of changes done to the set point. Yeah, this one is like what, 5 words. No, she included her examples. Right, so again, positive feedback is the amplification of changes done to the set point. And negative feedback would be a return to the set point. Okay, right, so they take a. No, I'm going to call it off, but that was a short version. Right, so the next one, negative feedback. Yeah. Negative feedback. This attempts to reverse. This attempts to reverse the change done. This attempts to reverse the change done. The change. E. Just another thing. The change done. Change. The change done to a set point. The change done to a set point. To achieve equilibrium. To achieve equilibrium. To achieve equilibrium, full stop. And some of you again, Unit 1 chemistry flashbacks. Remember equilibrium? Jazir? Let's talk about it. I tell you, you remember equilibrium? Right. Okay, so Let me. Yeah, that, yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. So, actually, yeah, that's true. We, because I remember Sarah being there. I remember Victoria. No, they were the official. I actually remember you being there. You got separate days. Mhm. That was I'll send you all that tomorrow. The schedule. Okay? Right. Okay. So the example of negative feedback would be an increase in body temperature. What sweating is done when body temperature increases, or shivering when body temperature decreases. Sweating when body temperature increases, and shivering when body temperature decreases. Okay. So I just want to do a quick comparison, right? We're going to do the nervous system, right? I think that's the topic after, right? Yeah, the nervous system. But just briefly, I want us to compare no, that's after excretion, we're doing the nervous system. But the endocrine system first. We're familiar with what the nervous system is, right? So the nervous system involves electrical signaling throughout the body, right? And we need to be able to compare your nervous system with your endocrine system, right? Now, the endocrine system, rather than using electrical signaling, it uses chemical signaling with the use of hormones, right? So if you're comparing chemical signaling to electrical signaling, which one do you think will feel faster? Electrical or chemical? Electrical, right? So one difference between the nervous, or two differences between the nervous system and the endocrine system is the speed, right? The nervous system will be significantly faster than the endocrine system, right? Another way is the way in which the signal. Nervous system uses electrical signaling, while the endocrine system uses chemical signaling. Right, so you're going to start with that. And the mammalian endocrine system. Okay. So you have an endocrine and an exocrine system, right? The main difference between an endocrine system and an exocrine system is the presence of glands, right? An endocrine system does not have any ducts, right? They are ductless glands, right? An exocrine system has ducts. Just think of an example. An example of an exocrine gland would be your salivary glands. They have ducts, right? An endocrine gland, like your adrenal glands or your pituitary gland, they don't have any ducts. Another way you could think of it, endocrine means, endo means what? In, right? So endo referring to inside your body. So your pituitary gland inside your body, your adrenal glands inside your body, ovaries, testes inside your body, right? Things like your sweat glands, salivary glands, mammary glands, tear glands, they secrete things outside your body, right? And they have ducts. You'll know which ducts I'm talking about, right? These ducts. Right? They have ducts, right? So the glands with ducts would be an exocrine and endocrine would be ductless. Right? That's the main difference. And we have to remember examples of both types. Okay, so yeah, just write down. Trees on the side. Secreted external. That's a really use company, right? Well, let's get my Kit Kat and we'll be good.
Have a break. Have a
Have a break. Okay, I waited for my Kit Kat, please. All right, so after that, just skip it line, right? So when we talk about the endocrine system, hormones are secreted only in the endocrine system, right? You're not going to secrete hormones from an exocrine gland. Okay, you know, see the saliva, the tears they secrete, they don't have hormones in them. Right? Again, hormones only involved in the endocrine system. And where are they released? So when they're released from the glands, where do they enter? Into the blood, right? Hormones travel through the blood. Okay, and they're only found in the blood. They're not going to secrete hormones external in mammals at least. Right? So they'll travel into the blood plasma and then they'll go to whichever target tissue. Okay, so the example is insulin. What is the organ responsible for producing insulin? The pancreas. So the pancreas responsible for making the insulin secreted into the bloodstream and it goes to where? Where's the target tissue of that insulin? Well, cells, any respiring cells, right? Because respiring cells would need the glucose, right? So the insulin goes towards any respiring tissue or respiring cell, right? So you could say muscle cells or muscle tissue. Right? So that's an example there, right? And the thing with hormones, they're not needed in large amounts. They're needed in very small quantities to make a change, right? So that is one of the characteristics. And so I take the note for that. The endocrine system. The endocrine system. The endocrine system is composed of. The endocrine system is composed of endocrine glands. It's composed of endocrine glands, which secrete hormones. Which secrete hormones for signaling. Which secrete hormones for signaling. Full stop. These hormones are transported. These hormones are transported through the blood plasma. These hormones are transported through the blood plasma from the gland that they were made to their target tissue, right? To their target tissues. Full stop. These hormones are needed in small amounts. These hormones are needed in small amounts. Comma, as in large quantities. As in large quantities. They can cause, as in large quantities, they can cause hormonal imbalance. As in large quantities, they can cause hormonal imbalance. Full stop. All right, so from CSEC, and for those of you who did Unit 1 already, you all would know what I'm talking about, right? So when you all would have done the female reproductive system, you would have seen how hormones like progesterone affect estrogen, and how estrogen could affect luteinizing hormone and so forth, right? So if you have too much hormones, it will cause a cascade effect, right? Which will lead to either the over or underproduction of another hormone, right? Leading to hormonal imbalance, which could have some very serious effects. Right? So you only want hormones in a small controlled amount, right? And it have two types of hormones. Before anybody know the two types of hormones? What the two categories? Right? We have steroid and non-steroid hormones. I believe, but I'm not sure, this is only keeping into syllabus. How it is. Everything. Yes. What it is? Okay. Right? So the steroid hormones, right? They could pass through that way it is diffuse. So they can pass through by diffusion. So they can diffuse through plasma membrane. So remember, a steroid is lipid soluble, right? And our cell membranes are made up of phospholipids. So a steroid hormone can simply diffuse through the plasma membrane and enter the cell. A non-steroid hormone cannot diffuse through plasma membrane or the phospholipid barrier, right? Because it is not lipid soluble, therefore it cannot simply diffuse across. Okay, so which one you all think acts faster? Right, so let's say you take some hormones, or your body secrete some hormones. Do you think the steroid hormone would move faster or the non-steroid? Steroid one, right? Because it doesn't have a barrier for entry. It can simply diffuse. Right? Now that's a good thing and a bad thing, right? For pharmaceutical practices, if you want an immediate change, you'll use a steroid hormone. If you want changes over time and control amounts, use a non-steroid hormone or non-steroid drug, right? So faster is not always better, only in certain cases. So your examples of steroid hormones would be things like testosterone, right? So it's sex hormones. So, testosterone, estrogen, right? Things like that. The non-steroid hormones will be things like ADH, which stands for antidiuretic hormone. You have your adrenaline, your oxytocin. Right, so just some examples. Right, so again, the non-steroid hormones, most of the times it'll be proteins, right? So it's made up of polypeptides. That's why it can just diffuse through that plasma membrane. Right, the steroids would have some lipid properties, so non-polar properties, so it can pass through the phospholipid binding. Okay, so yeah, estrogen, progesterone. Okay. Anybody confused so far? So far we should know the difference between an exocrine and endocrine system, steroid and non-steroid hormones, positive, negative feedback mechanisms, a couple of differences between the nervous and endocrine system or hormonal system. We should know how to draw a negative feedback loop with a given factor like temperature. Yeah, so far we should know those things. Right. So we go in a little bit more in depth with the endocrine system. Okay, so this is a diagram. Now capers be kind of funny sometimes, right? It's not directly on the syllabus, but when I went through some of the questions, I saw that they bring this, right? Right, so in past years, they have brought a diagram similar to this, and they said, okay, name these glands and what they secrete. Now again, you need to know examples of hormones and the glands that secrete them, but it didn't have anywhere about labeling it. So for safety's sake, you all should know how to label this. Okay? My only eyes at me.
No, just.
Yeah, your rule your eyes towards it.
Well, that's not, as we don't have to leave that.
Oh, no, I mean, they should know, as in revise it and then you'll win. Not know already. Okay, so at the top here, we have something called a pituitary gland, right? You all did ADH before, antidiuretic hormone. Yeah, okay, well, we're going to do it again, but this hormone is responsible for water retention, right? So how much water in your urine is controlled by the hormone ADH and is secreted by the pituitary gland, right? Now, this gland secretes a lot of different hormones, right? One of the main ones we're going to learn about is ADH, right? You have your salivary glands, secrete saliva. Is this endo or exocrine? Exocrine, right? Your thyroid gland, which would be an endocrine gland, would secrete thyroxine, right? Your adrenal gland. So I know most of you all thought your adrenal gland was in your head, right? Right, so your adrenal gland is actually close to your liver, right, at the bottom here, right, and that will secrete adrenaline, right? You have your stomach, secretes gastric juice. Is that a hormone, or does it have hormones in it? Gastric juice. No, right? Your gastric juice would contain enzymes and acid, right? You have your islets of Langerhans. So these are found in the pancreas, and these would secrete insulin and glucagon. Your pancreas secretes pancreatic juice, and ovary in females for estrogen and progesterone, testes in men to produce testosterone. Okay, so just learn the labels and just remember the general location. Okay, because if they bring a diagram to draw it, they'll just ask you to either label or they'll bring a question asking you, okay, what hormones is the testis responsible for producing? Okay. I'll send you all that diagram right now, right now, so I wouldn't forget.
That's right. Hey, Robert, son, who said that?
Huh?
Remember what the other thing.
The paper. There were two Kit Kats.
Me?
Yeah. All right, so send it. We'll send in. We'll send in. Some point was sent, right? You all got it as yet? Biggest door. Right? Yeah, so they go to the next part. Right, so we have steroid, non-steroid hormones. Right, so after that, you just skip in a line. So after the steroid and non-steroid hormones, you just skip in a line. And we just continue through it. The endocrine system. The endocrine system. Endocrine system in general. Endocrine system in general acts slower, acts slower, acts slower than the nervous system, acts slower than the nervous system. However, it may bring about, however, it may bring about long-term changes. However, it may bring about long-term changes. Full stop. Right, so what do I mean by that? So the nervous system, right? If someone, let's say for some reason, hits you, right? Right, so somebody hits you a slap, your nervous system would react by either trying to block their slap or slapping them back, depending on how fast you are, right? So that would happen, right? But that's a temporary effect. Or even if you're feeling pain on your face, that's temporary, okay? Some hormonal changes, not all, are long-term. So when you secrete growth hormone, that's going to cause a certain part of your body to grow, right? After that growth, you can't grow in reverse, right? Meaning you're not going to shrink, right? So the effect is going to be long-term. Understand? So the nervous system is more temporary, quick temporary effects. Hormones could bring about lasting effects, right? Same thing, secretion of testosterone would cause you to develop certain traits that will return even after the testosterone levels drop a little bit. Okay? Right. So let's take those two examples. That's a good example. Right? Example. Yeah. Because I'll understand it. Huh? Example. If someone slaps you. Example. If someone slaps you. Comma. There is a short-term reaction. If someone slaps you, comma, there is a short-term reaction. Full stop. If you secrete growth hormones, comma, if you secrete growth hormones, comma, then the growth cannot be reversed. Then the growth cannot be reversed. Full stop. Right. So I think this is the very first time I'm giving you a homework, right? So you should actually do it. So homework, right? So just take down this homework for next week, Wednesday. And it's just a little bit over. please just attempt it. The homework, describe how insulin and glucagon. Describe how insulin and glucagon regulates glucose levels. Insulin and glucagon regulate glucose levels in the human body. Right? So that is your home for next week. Huh? Yeah, once you remind me. No, I remember. And you know how we're going to remember? Send all your message. Right. You all ever did a Kahoot before?
Yeah.
A Kahoot. No? Alright, so you're gonna do a Kahoot today, right? Okay, so the short Kahoot, for those who didn't do a Kahoot before, it will be on you. You had to win it. You had to won the Kahoot. Well, there's a chance to win one. It's 10 questions. Right? So the Kahoot, all you're doing is you're typing up Kahoot on your browser, you're clicking it, and then you're painting the game pin, right?
That was the look I watched you go.
That's true. Right? So I share the code here. Just print code. Yeah, we can just join one time. No, she's in the other classroom. She just didn't want to be in the same room with her. Olive. No, not me. Olive. Right, so you just join the Kahoot. Just type in Kahoot. Click it. You're supposed to get a game code. Type in the game code. Right, the winner will get a Kit Kat next week.
How much did you get?
There's one, no, if you win this one, you get a Kit Kat. If you don't win this one, you lost it. So you defend the Kit Kat, the rest of them trying to steal. No, well, yeah, don't win this first. So it's on circulation and the blood vessels. Until you again, true? Huh? I guess remember to have a timer too. So right, does everybody here or missing anybody? Jenna's not in join. Okay, so I'm gonna start trying. Right, so we're playing for a Kit Kat. Full Kit Kat. For Avilasha's Kit Kat. Oh, it's 15 questions, my part. My part. Which vessels carry blood away from? So these should be easy, right? It's an easy one, just to refresh on it. What's it? Oh. So we gotta have a timer, right? Who put veins? Okay. Right. Right, so iron on top. Right, so veins carry blood. Dot, dot, dot. What direction? Oh, towards the heart. Right. Which blood vessels are adapted to exchange materials? Right, your capillaries, right, due to their size, their small size. Which part of blood helps form scabs? Right, your platelets. Jizila blades, they've seen a reaction. Red blood cells. What do they do? Sixth or third nine? Right, they transport oxygen and they are flattened this shape. Right, so you have two options there. Everybody got one. Right, which part of the blood helps fight infection? Right, white blood cells, good. Right, somebody had a catch area. Which part of blood transports dissolved substances? Right, your plasma, good. Well, what's the function of the sinoarterial atrial node, sir? Right, so it creates an electrical impulse, right? It's also known as the pacemaker of the heart. And I should go on again. What do we call the very base of the heart? So the very base of the heart. You can use elimination for this one. Right, the apex, so the ventricle is not the very base. But that was it. You all could use elimination. Usually, yeah. Wait, Emily the bar talking here. Jazeel from St. Joseph Convent, San Fernando, upper six, bar talking here. Which side of the heart is thicker? Yeah, I guess so. Right, the left side. Right, so on the left side, that's where blood exits the heart, right? So it needs to be thicker to maintain those to withstand those pressures. Right, deoxygenated blood travels in the. Yeah, I didn't know I did. Right, the veins. Right, remember, there's only one type of artery carry deoxygenated blood, and that is the pulmonary artery.
I'll get. Yeah.
Right, blood from the left side of the heart goes to where?
What? Yeah.
Right, right, so the rest of the body. Right, this blood travels from which side, that's what we side, of the heart to the lungs. So which side of the heart carrying blood to the lungs? So think of the side that have the pulmonary artery. Sorry, pulmonary vein. Right, is the right side. Okay. Right, we're nearly done. Hey, Emily, overtake Ariana. Hmm. Right, which is smaller, the atriums or the ventricles? So it's supposed to be atria, right? Atriums is I didn't make this. Just
Sure.
right. So the atria is smaller than the ventricles. Good.
So you really want to on the screen now.
At the bottom, at the screen.
And how I want to answer straight go in.
Oh. What is the correct order?
What side?
Huh? Wait, who make this question?
What's that? Order.
I think they mean like direction.
All direction. Oh, that was very clear.
It was. I don't even know if they mean direction. Huh? Just pick answer.
I'm very correct.
Right. So veins atria. So yeah, they're talking about direction. So the winner or third place, Jazeel. Good job, Jazeel. Second place, Emily. Good job, Emily. And first place, Aria. Huh?
Just one line.
So what difference it make?
Wait, no, she runs up.
Huh?
She runs up. You run up, they save some kind of
I
credit.
think more on the
No.
Um,
That's great.
right? So you all did it bad as a class, right? So no bad. Right, we'll do our next one when we finish with homeostasis. And no Kit Kat for
I think
Abby.
they should perfect, I didn't don't do left hand, right?
Two.
Because.
You left on the right?
I tried, I still remember, it's always this on myself.
Yeah. Internationally.
There's my boost.
Yeah, yeah, and then that's literally on the video. Speaker flexibility, I share.
Naps on her.
Uh,
Then naps on her, me.
So you don't find some,
What's up?
since I'm the only person on the podium who's come physically, I should get kicked out.
What?
Well, yeah, if you once online, if Emily or Aaron will come before within 2 weeks, just you will get speaking.
Say, I'll never get that.
Actually, well,
I'm not gonna keep the kids down when they come, they'll get kicked out.
so you can't even remember the homework from last week, you remember the night.
Yeah, you will keep in mind.
Say,
Huh?
I'm gonna pick that for it. So just know that I'm the only one on the 17 here, I mean, on the 18. So, somewhere that's not considered space.
I don't know that. Right, so that's it today online. I'll see you all next week.